I'll tell you what. It's a good thing the Panthers are trained and experienced in fucking around because this would break any team that's not named the Edmonton Oilers or Florida Panthers. Let's begin, obviously, with a positively wild Game 4 in Florida. I'm just going to, just so we have all of the bases covered, so we make sure that we don't miss mentioning that crazy thing that happened, I'm going to give a quick summary, and then we're just going to fill in everything. Panthers dominate the first 10 minutes of this game. Oilers take 3 first-period penalties. Panthers score on 2 of them, make it 3-0 on a critical missed call at the end of the first period. At the intermission, with like minutes left before they're about to head out, Chris Knobloch tells Calvin Pickard, okay, you're going in for Stuart Skinner. He goes in. Penalties start being called on the Panthers. Makeup calls are coming. We said on our stream, like, these Oilers are going to start going on the power play. They need to score. That's what happens. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins makes it 3-1. Then Darnell Nurse scores on an absolute rope past Sergei Bobrovsky, makes it 3-2. Vasily Podkolzin ties the game late in the second period, and there you have it. It is tied 3-3 after 2. Third period, Sasha Barkov, of all people, turns the puck over. Jake Wallman winds up for a, let's say, Sean, you said on the stream, like a calendar month?
Yeah.
Jake Wallman waiting for that one-timer?
Calendar year, I think. But yeah, he was waiting there forever.
I said he occupied his own zip code.
Yes. Everyone saw it coming. I think Bob saw it coming. And Jake Wallman was like, I'm just going to do this shit. 4-3 Oilers. And then in the final seconds of regulation, Oilers have the chance to put it away. Brett Kulak just needs to reverse it to Evan Bouchard, or Leon Draisaitl just needs to be a little more Leon Draisaitl-esque in his own zone. Calvin Pickard needs to tend the goal, how you say. Doesn't matter. Panthers tie it, and it's 4-4 going to overtime. Each team hits a post. First, it's Trent Frederick. Then it is Sam Bennett. I might have gotten those flip-flopped, but Sam Bennett and Trent Frederick, very similar players, hit posts before Leon Draisaitl, who has had a weird night and deferred the entire night, tries to pass on like a 2-on-1-ish type thing. Nico Mikkola lays out. Gustav Forsling, he is not, so he essentially redirects the puck through the legs of Sergei Bobrovsky, and it is tied. And if I just described that poorly, allow us to have Jack Michaels do it for you.
Change, breaking free is Draisaitl to the net, score! Leon Draisaitl has tied the series with his 4th OT winner in the playoffs. Final score, Edmonton 5, Florida 4 in overtime.
And in the process, what does Leon Draisaitl do, Jack? With his 4th overtime goal in one playoffs. That, my friend,
is a new league record.
There you go.
The best. Oh, my God.
People say that we're the best duo in hockey.
No, they don't.
Some say that maybe Merrick and Wyshynski are the best duo in hockey. Sean even argues from time to time that Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid could be a good duo.
Do you think I've said that before? Yeah.
He's said it before. It's Bob and whoever Bob's with, and it's Jack and whoever Jack's with.
That was incredible. Also, I was not prepared for the tonal shift from Jack screaming like overtime, and then like in a split second, Bob in there just talking straight like Bob, no, not elevated, just straight to the point, information. But then the handoff, the simultaneous, seamless handoff from one to the other, those guys are the best.
For two guys that don't work together all the time.
Yeah.
That's the most impressive part.
I texted my hockey group chat last night. I said, I haven't heard Jack Michaels' call yet, but I'm making it my ringtone. No matter what, like, find it for me and I will make it my ringtone. Incredible. Jack Michaels was born to say the words in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody calls an overtime game winner like Jack Michaels. And isn't it just beautiful that he happens to call the team with the guy who scores all the overtime goals? Sean?
I'm very defensive of commentators with overtime because I personally think Rick Jeanneret is the greatest to ever do it. It's iconic. He voices the fucking bubble hockey games. It's the closest I've ever seen to that.
Yeah.
It's like it is a truly iconic like meet in the moment. And my thought when I heard that was like, how do other commentators just not have it? Like I get that Jack's special, but like how do you not get up for a moment like that in the way that Jack does?
Because for some people, if they try to get there inauthentically, it's just you can see right through it, and it's like it's the worst.
Yeah, fair.
So you have to be able to do it in a way that is just authentically you, and that's authentically Jack Michaels, man. And you said the Leon Draisaitl, the guy who always does it. That's a new development. He has the most goals in a Stanley Cup playoff in overtime with 4 now. He never had one before this season.
Most in Stanley Cup Final, 2.
With 2?
2. You're not
2?
getting 2 overtime game winners in a Stanley Cup Final unless you're talking to Leon Draisaitl. And famously, as we've noted on the stream, Sean was saying it, and we said it just there in the little description, was not trying to score a goal. And he still scored. And I think I feel good for both of these goalies, or all 3 of them, I should say, that the game winner was just like a what the fuck, can't blame the goalie, like whatever, wash sort of thing. All 3 of these goalies had their moments in this game where they were unbelievable. Watching the game live, I felt like Bob's really good tonight. I went back and rewatched a lot of it. He wasn't, but he made some huge saves.
He made some massive saves.
Yes, but he also allowed 5 goals. So, like, what I'm saying is, I like for his sake that in a game where he battled his balls off, it wasn't one where you're like, damn, Bob, what's wrong with you? It's more he saw a 2-on-1-ish type thing coming and his defenseman kicked the puck.
I get what you're saying. I would have liked to have a more natural kind of goal to end that game. I feel like that was a kind of a shitty goal to end what was an instant classic.
Yeah.
You take it if you're an Oilers fan, and Leon Draisaitl, obviously, but it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. I did write down like some of the big saves in this game that will probably be forgotten. Obviously, Stu on Bennett, like right at the beginning of the game on the rebound of that Rodriguez shot. His rebound on Reinhart when Verhaeghe jammed it early. Pickard on Lundell, 3-1 in the second period.
That, to me, was the turning point in that game.
After the Nugent-Hopkins goal.
You're right. You're right on the heels of the Oilers putting some faith back into their side of on their side of the street. Then you give the puck away to Lundell, and you get a massive stop all alone from Calvin Pickard, which, number one, keeps the momentum in your corner, but also puts some confidence behind Calvin Pickard, who comes in cold. I feel like that was truly the turning point in that game.
I agree. And then for Bob, Jeff Skinner had a breakaway early in the second period that Bob came up huge on. Bob obviously also stopped Connor McDavid on the power play in the second period after McDavid absolutely killed Aaron Ekblad for the 500th time this series. And then in the third period, do you remember McDavid is like high slottish area, kind of Wallman's, winds up for 5 hours, takes a slap shot, and Perry right on the rebound is going to tuck it in, and Bob with the huge save. So like all these goalies made big saves in this game. 5-4, your final. Since it was asked after game 3 about Edmonton, dare we ask, what kind of loss is this for the Florida Panthers? You have a 3-0 lead, you blow it, you come back in the third period to force overtime, you still lose.
I mean, it's a bad loss for sure. I mean, it's a swing game, pivotal swing game. You had an opportunity to kind of put your foot on the throats of the Oilers, which, like, historically isn't the most important thing for the Florida Panthers, given that they blew a 3-game lead. I'm not going to overreact and say that this is a crushing or demoralizing or devastating loss for the Panthers, because, again, we looked at last year. They had a 3-game lead that they blew in the Stanley Cup Final. So blowing a 3-goal lead is not the end of the world. Paul Maurice is very good at keeping his team even-keeled, keeping them composed. I just think the lesson that we learned early in these playoffs is that if you have an opportunity to pin the Oilers to the mat, do not let them get off the fucking mat, and I believe that the Panthers let them get off the fucking mat in this series.
A great man has told us that when coaching against Connor McDavid, You need to defend him when you have the puck. That is what your mindset has to be. When you have the puck, you are preventing Connor McDavid from scoring a goal. That sounds crazy, but he is just Connor McDavid. I think that maybe, I don't know, it's like coaching and playing scared, but like, is that the way that teams need to approach the Oilers, where it's like not just you have to pin them down, you have to hold them down, you have to sit there an extra 45 minutes. And I know that a person and a team can't go 45 minutes without breathing, but just like make it 46 just in case. And easier said than done. This team always comes back, but damn, at some point, and I don't know if it's going to be the Oilers or the Panthers, but at some point, all this is going to get too taxing and people are going to run out of gas. Like, I will not be surprised if this goes 6 either way. If Florida comes out and wins the next 2 and you're like, boy, it took a lot out of Edmonton to win that game 4. That was their Super Bowl. Or if Edmonton comes out and blows doors the rest of the way, where it's one of those classic, the Oilers melted down and then they never lost again. That happens all the time. My hottish take is I think we all feel it's going 7. We have 3 more games left of this. It really, really, really could not.
It could. You might be right. But at the end of the day,
I apologize, by the way. Ambassador Degree says it's not taxing. That was in Florida. Go on.
That's true. You could be right, but I just can't escape the feeling that both of these teams are too addicted to the theater. They're too addicted to the theater of it all. They're not going to trim any sort of drama out of this. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just the feeling that I get. And it brings me to the questions that I had last night when I was chewing on this whole thing. Number one, are the Oilers just addicted to proving that they're resilient? Like, going back 2 years at this point, you run down the list of times where they had to prove that they were resilient. They started last regular season off horribly, had to fire the coach, basically had to win every game for like the last 4 months of the year to get into the playoffs. They do it. Last year in the Stanley Cup Final, they erased a 3-0 deficit against the Panthers. This year, they end the regular season on a horrific skid. They start the first round of the playoffs against the Kings by giving the first 2 games away, playing horribly. They have to prove their resilience there. They start the Western Conference Final. They give away a game to the Dallas Stars for no reason, just to start the series behind. And then this series, they give away game 3 by delivering the worst stinker of the playoffs. And then they start game 4 by digging themselves a hole. Like, is this team just addicted to the high of showing people that they can do it?
I don't know if they're addicted to it, but it is the one path you can count on most for them. You know, like a clean slate doesn't do this team much good.
Well, no, I think that a clean slate does do them a lot of good, but they have to wipe the slate after they shit all over it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of saying the same thing, though. Like being on good standing doesn't do anything for them. It needs to be, we have to do this or else, which no better place to be doing that than the Stanley Cup Final. But even from game to game, they find themselves in situations. They won game 1. They had to come back and win that game. They had to come back down multiple goals and win that game. There is something to, I don't know if they're addicted to it or what, but they can't get there, or they don't show their biggest moments unless it's right after their lowest moments. They're the most dramatic team in the league. I was talking to Dan Powers after the game last night, and he was like, they've just got some magic. Like, they suck, but it doesn't matter. They just have some magic. I don't know if they suck. I think that both these teams are unbelievable, but I hear what Dan's saying. If you watch this team and you're like, why do you have to fuck around so much before you do something? But when you do something, you're doing it against the best teams in the league and you're running them over.
Right. And that brings me to my second question here is, are we overrating the Panthers' ability to close, or do they just play with their food?
I think the Panthers are not the world beater, not world beaters, because they're an unbelievable team. But I feel like there's a lot of, well, you can't do this against Florida. You don't do that. Like, yeah, you can.
It really applies to both teams in the series. So, like, which team in this series fucks around more? Because they do it in different ways. Like, the Oilers will give you something typically at the beginning of games, sometimes at the end, I guess, if you're talking the Western Conference Final, but like they'll give you something and then they'll climb out of it. I think that right now, the kind of the mystique of the Panthers as closers is dissipating a little bit.
I just feel like the Florida Panthers have lost one playoff series in 3 years. No, you can't fuck around with them because it's a 7-game series and they've won every single one.
But I think that you do have to consider, like, yeah, they closed out the Cup Final last year, but it's because they had 4 tries to do it. And, like, they gave themselves 4 tries to do it, for sure. But they do, like, maybe they're just as addicted to the theater as the Oilers are.
Oh, I mean, I was talking about that last round. They love to play with their food. But I think they're just like those shithead kids in school who, like, they fuck around, and then once things get serious, they do what they need to do. But like, I think there's a little bit of an element of like they're addicted to the drama. Like they like fucking around. I mean, we talked about it last night with Paul Maurice. He was in Game 5. He was talking about Game 7 last year. Like that is, they know how long of a runway they have, and they're willing to use every bit of it.
Crazy to me. It just makes them less of a like all-time great team, which when I watch them at points, I'm like, damn, like this could be an all-time great team. But the fact that you can fuck around on them and they fuck around, they're still possibly the best team and a very plausible, even still likely Stanley Cup champion. But man, blowing a 3-goal lead when you're like getting breaks too.
They had everything in their corner after that first period. It looked over for the Oilers.
You're at home, a 3-0 lead at home, and I know that the fans didn't stay for the whole thing, but damn, that is, I'll tell you what, it's a good thing the Panthers are trained and experienced in fucking around because this would break any team that's not named the Edmonton Oilers or Florida Panthers. That I can tell you.
I think I would be way more worried if it weren't the Panthers based off of what happened yesterday. But ultimately, all of this goes back into the pot that I started with, which was that both of these teams just love the theater too much for me to think it's going anything less than 7. And that's part of the reason why I think we're talking about a potential best Stanley Cup final ever here, is because both these teams are just addicted to absurdity.
They're drama queens. Is this the best Stanley Cup final ever? I know that we haven't watched them all like Merrick has, but it's the best one. Like, I've covered a bunch of Stanley Cup finals, and this is, I'm not covering this obviously, but this is definitely the best Stanley Cup final I've seen. And I know that people say
already
it's like through 4 games. Yes.
Okay.
I know that 2013 is the one that's getting mentioned in recent years. I think that 2011 is more interesting. Obviously, 2013 was a lot closer. That was the one that had 3 overtimes in the first 4 games between the Blackhawks and the Bruins. That was amazing because the Blackhawks were so much better than the Bruins. And you're like, wow, the Bruins go up 2-1 in this series. All these games keep going to overtime. This could be a thing. 2011 was amazing because that one, and I know that it needed more time past 4 games before we really got to the thick of it, but that just had so much drama. You had motherfuckers eating each other's hands, sticking each other's fingers in each other's mouths, coaches yelling at their players, do not put your fingers in the other player's mouth. Goalies, war of words, one goalie saying, please love me, the other one saying, I don't know her. 2011, I think, better cup final than 2013 even, although 2013 obviously had the much more dramatic ending.
In terms of the theater, I think 2011 clears. But that's not, like, the hockey is not as good as what we're seeing in this year.
I agree. Although, like, this one, the mark against this one is like, Game 3 sucked.
Game 3 sucked. But again, it's 3/4 of the series has been unbelievable stuff. Game 3, flush.
I don't think Game 3 sucked.
In 2011, there was a flush game too.
Oh, 2011, there were a bunch of flush games.
Yeah, right.
2011, basically, the games that Boston won, they killed Vancouver. And the games that Vancouver won, like, they were the better team, but it was a lot closer. Game 2 went to overtime, and it took Tim Thomas dicking around behind the net. Yeah. So this is This is an all-timer, I think we can say. It's an all-timer. As Pete said, you got two teams who have very fair allegations of being drama queens. Panthers, I think, are drama queens maybe a little more endearing. Oilers, drama queens, derogatory. Who gets the endearing and who gets the derogatory there?
I mean, I think that it's both.
Depends on who wins the cup.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to give it to the Panthers just because they're the defending cup champions. But
well, let me ask you this: what would it take in the remaining 2 to 3 games that would convince you that this is the best Stanley Cup final ever?
I mean, we haven't heard from Mr. McDavid yet, so him going the hell off would be amazing. The problem is there someone on Florida who you could say that this becomes like a 2-man race where it's like this guy and the Panthers, McDavid and the Oilers?
I mean,
I think that Bobrovsky is
Bennett
the guy who can like single-handedly take over for Florida more than anybody is Bobrovsky.
So what if there's like to bring it back to 2011, what if there's, my favorite hockey game ever, the Bin Laden game, which is known for Bin Laden dying, but also for it feeling like there were only 2 players on the ice, Tim Thomas and James Van Riemsdyk. What if there's a game that is just a McDavid undressing guys every shift? Let's say he scores 2, but it could have been 7, and Bob is absolutely going off. That would be an all-time great, given the names and given the fact that it will not have been overshadowed by the death of a horrible, horrible terrorist. Something to think about.
Who's to say?
Brave enough. Very brave of you to say. Bin Laden bad guy.
And calling my shot that there's not going to be another like Bin Laden dying before then.
I mean,
who's to say?
Yeah.
Somebody says Game 7, Hyman comes back and scores the game-winning goal. I mean, that would
maybe Game 7, 2027.
Yeah, I know.
We all silly like the mayor.